Have you also been, trying out new agentic frameworks and confused about the architecture and how it all works? So stay tuned because we are going to explore Google Agent Development Kit, which is an open source agent development platform. And the great thing about it is that they offer a free tier LLM API, which is Google Gemini 2.5 Flash, which will help us to, speed up our development process, perform rapid prototyping, and understand how everything works. So in this tutorial, we will create an agent, write its instructions, run that agent, and add pre and post hooks. So this will give you a complete view of how an agentic framework works, and then you can extend this idea to utilize and build your own agentic application. And I'm really excited to get you into this. So before we go, there are prerequisites as always. So we have UV package manager, Python 3.13 plus. I mean, it should work on any version of Python above 3.8, but since I'm using this, so I'll just recommend it. And then you should have this Google Gemini API key. It's all free of course. You don't need any credit cards. You can just go to this and register, and then like you can just create an API key, and then it will give you. So let's hope that you are set up. Once you are set up with prerequisites, we can go ahead and start. And yeah, I mean, these all installation for UV package manager, Python, and all. These are very straightforward. So yeah, let's get started. So we will start with ADK. In the project directory, we can just create a folder named ADK underscore agents. Your root agent should look like this. So basically you see this ADK agents, and then here we will be adding all the agents. And once you're here, you just need to do UV init command, which will set up these files main.py, PyProject, Python version, UV, and all these things. Since I've already done, so I don't need to do that. And by the way, all these steps are present in my blog, so feel free to check it out. It has all the step-by-step instructions and what needs to be done. I'll attach the link in the description of this video. So once you are done with that, then we can just do UV add Google ADK. Since I have already installed it, so it will mostly say that it's already present. But in your case, it will install the Google ADK. And that's the big part. Once we are done with this, we are ready to roll. And this will basically create main.py, PyProject, and uv.log. So all these files that you see here, okay? So once we are done with this, let's get started for the exciting thing. We need to create a new agent, which is basically news agent. So the command to do that is, I mean, you can manually create these files also, but it's always convenient if you use the ADK CLI. So it's very convenient. You just need to do UV run ADK create, and then the directory location where you want to create. In my case, it's ADK agents, and then slash the news agent. Okay. Since we already have it, so I don't want to create it. But once you create it, it will ask you a lot of questions. I'll just quickly show you how does this look, so that by creating a new agent, so let's say create ADK agents sample agent. So whatever you name it here, it will appear in this side. Okay. So if I click on this, so as you can see, it's asking me which model. I can choose Gemini 2.5 Flash or other models. In this case, I would recommend using Gemini 2.5 Flash because it's easier to work with, and you will get a free API key which you can use it. And then finally, for the model, I will choose Google AI. And then it will ask me for the API key. Whatever API key you generate from aistudio.com, you just enter it here. But now I'm just entering a dummy value. And then it will say that, okay, this has been created. So you can see that it has created the sample agent. Okay. So for now, I'll just delete it. I just wanted to show you how this is done. Okay. Now moving to the next step, since we have already created the agent and we have this env file, so you need to make sure that this env file is in your git ignore. You don't want to push this file. Okay, this is the secret file because it has all your credentials. I mean, API key, not very specifically a lot of credentials, but the API key that is being used to invoke the LLM API, and to make sure that it's not abused by others, you need to keep this in git ignore. So please take care of that, and put all of your secrets. Like let's say tomorrow you add some more secret, just keep it in this file only instead of hard coding it in your actual agent.py or something. Okay, so that's one important thing I just wanted to, because make sure you use it responsibly. And then once we are done with this, we will see our agent looking something like this. Let me actually, I shouldn't have deleted the sample agent. Let me just do create it again, so that UV run ADK create, then agent ADK agents sample agent. So I'll just choose one. Yeah, okay. So if you see this, this is how my agent looks like, and this is how your environment file will look like once it's created. Okay. So this is a very basic agent. It says that user answers to the best of your knowledge. So basically the LLM will be answering your questions, whatever you ask this agent. Okay. That's the very simple version of this. Now, once we are done with the, setup and everything, I mean, this base agent, let's, start running this and let's see if everything is in place. So we can do this by just typing in UV run ADK web. We need to specify the directory. So I'll just do ADK agents. And then, yeah, I think that should, because all the agents are inside this directory. And if you want, you can specify the port also, but I'll just go with default port, which is 8000. So let it run. So once it starts running, we can just go and open. This is the URL, localhost 8000 dev UI. And then you get an option to select an agent. Okay. Now my sample agent is here, so I can interact with it. Like, what can you do? I mean, this is all debug UI, so that you can interact with your agent and see how it's behaving and all those details. So this is how it's responding to me. So that's, high level. If this is running for you, that means all the setup is done. And now we can move on to the next step. Okay. Okay. So now let's understand the concepts of, ADK. This will help us to build agents with proper precision and accuracy and follow the best practices. So there is the top level component, which is, basically agent, which is a unit, you can say like a class, which, helps you facilitate all these things. It needs instruction, which is like your instruction to the agent. These are two different things. Instruction is what your agent is supposed to do when an input comes in, and description is just a helpful description, which, can be helpful to understand what it is about. But instruction should be specific, like what your agent is supposed to do, how it is supposed to interact with input. If user sends something, are we supposed to invoke a tool call, or are we supposed to answer the question? Things like that. All of that sits into this instruction part. Okay. Then there are things like hooks, there are things like tools, there are things like memory, and there are a couple of more things also. But these are like the core things. On top of this, most of the, I would say most of the design would revolve around this. And on top of that, there are, you can say plugins, which is like a cherry on cake. But raw ingredient wise, we have like four major things: instructions, which should be as clear as possible; tools, again, your agent, which basically will be taking care of all these things. So you can say it's a superset. Yeah, tools, hooks, or callbacks, or memory. I know callbacks, not memory. You can say middlewares also. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. And then finally memory. Okay, so these are four important components of any agentic framework, in my opinion. I mean, there could be additional things like RAG corpus, or guardrails, but overall, all of that can be covered within these four major things. Okay, so yeah, coming to instructions, we already discussed this. Okay, now tools. What are tools? So unlike traditional LLM, applications like ChatGPT or Claude, you ask them a question and it gives you an answer. Okay, but they cannot do something on behalf of you. For example, you cannot tell Claude to respond to an email. Okay, I know there are some agentic setup done there, but just imagine the Claude or ChatGPT from 2023s or 24, like initial, when they were launched initially. So you can ask them; they will tell you what to do, but they cannot do it on your behalf. And that was a big gap, because it could be very tricky to monitor, manage all those tasks, and that's where agentic tool frameworks help us. Tools are nothing but they are means to perform, to help agent perform certain tasks which a general LLM couldn't do. Okay, now coming for hooks, callbacks, or middlewares. Again, so at certain points from the life cycle of this whole agentic process. So let's say you receive a call. So let's say agent gets a call. It decides what to do, forwards the request to a tool, receives, I need to comment this out, receives tool response, processes it, and responds to user. So you can see that this is like a high level step-by-step breakdown. But you might want to have a control over what happens when the agent gets the request. Let's say agent gets the request from a user. Request says, give me all my bookings. Now, when the user asks this question, before it goes to the agent, you may want to intercept this request. Okay. You may want to call some authentication or authorization service. Okay. You authenticate the user, get their metadata, and add those details to the agent. So, when you want to do things like this, or let's say agent has done its processing and it might be returning some critical response, or some, which might be violating some policies. So in order to avoid those kind of scenarios also, you can put a guardrail, like after agent is done calling, I want to stop that request, inspect it first, and then only return it. That's where your hooks, callbacks, and middlewares come in. Okay. And I'll show you a beautiful diagram. This is given in ADK docs. This will actually help you understand things like how the life cycles work. So again, this can be called something like in Strands, it's called hooks, but in ADK, it's called callbacks, but the concept is same. Okay. So these are the callbacks that are supported by ADK. Before agent callback, then it goes to the agent, it calls the model, a model before model callback, after model callback. Model is that, in our case, it's Gemini 2.5 Flash. Okay. So the point where it's going to call the model, which is like the LLM, the brain of this whole agentic system, that's where this before model and after model callback comes in. And before tool callback, after tool callback, again, this is also, so if you want to perform any action, like let's say for some reason there was some unexpected error coming from the tool, you want to, rephrase that, or, make some edits on the tool response and all those details. So that is where you can use this. And finally, once the tool's response is received, agent will finally craft the final response, and then it will send it to the user. So before sending it to the user, you want to invoke it in after agent callback. Okay. So that is what tools is about. Okay. And let's quickly see an example to understand how this works. And by the way, this whole code is available in my blog, so you can always have a look at it. So this is a simple before model modifier, which inspects, what the LLM request is, and then based on that, it will call the actual LLM, or like let's say I have this probated keyword. if that is in the user message, then it will just return that it did not complete that response. Again, this is a joke assistant which tells you joke about different topics. And if you go through this, it first you need to fetch the last message of the user. So these are all the pre-processing steps, because you want to make sure that you're picking the right message and not maybe you don't end up picking the assistant's message, assistant meaning the agent's message, rather than the user's message, and then how the modification goes on. Again, this is also an example from the ADK, so I've just kept it here, but we'll see it in the action and understand how things are working here. Okay, so I am here with the safety agent that we just saw. We can switch between the agents in the dev tools. Now I'll just ask, what can you do? And wait for the agent. I can tell jokes. Just give me a topic or tell me what kind of joke you are in the mood for. Okay, so can you tell me a joke about AI agents? Why did the AI agent go to the therapy? Because it had too many unresolved dependencies. I mean, that's not funny. Can you share one more? So yeah, it can try to, I mean, it tries its best to make good jokes. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. Why did the AI agent bring a ladder to the meeting? Because it heard that they were discussing high level architecture. Okay, I mean, it's better, I would say. So yeah, this is the joke agent. But let's say I ask, can you tell me a joke about death? You see that it says LLM call was blocked due to prohibited keyword. And if you see here, this is what happened. So I mean, this is a very generic check, but you can extend this in more detail. Of course, it will just look for death. So let's say, uh, can you tell me a joke about someone who dies? Things like that, if I ask, then very likely it's going to give me a joke. So it looks for exact match, rather it should look for semantic match, but that's a different thing altogether. This is just to show you what agents are capable of in terms of callbacks, okay, or hooks or lifecycle methods, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we have covered the um, hooks and callbacks, and now let's go to the tools. I mean, tools we already covered, but let's see some examples. So if I show you this news agent, in this one there are some tools which you write, like for example this is a personal info that I just wrote, and there are some tools that you will find inside ADK module. One of a very useful tool, at least to me, is Google search. And you need to be very careful here, because you cannot mix you know internal tool with custom tool. You will get some really weird errors, and it's very hard to debug like what's going on. But I mean, this is a way to mix it up. But like, let's say if you supply the tools directly, for example, here if I say Google search and then here I say comma personal info, that's where when it will start to break. It will say that you cannot invoke these tools, but it never tells you why. So that's about it. And now let's see. So basically I just created a personal info which will basically give you personal info, take the user ID, and if user ID is not present, it will return none, otherwise it will return the user details. Again, this is all dummy. You can do database calls or anything that you want here. And then I have created a personal info agent. Similarly, I have created search agent, which will search the news for me. And then I have created the root agent, which you can consider as supervising agent. And I hope you're getting the idea. So you can see that instructions are very clear, like when it's supposed to do what. And this is how you can create a supervisor agent, which will supervise multi-level agents, and that makes your application, flow very smoothly. So you can also consider this as orchestrator. Anyways, so these are the tools that I've supplied to this agent. And if I save this, and if I just go here and let's say kill this terminal, and I mean, I don't know why I killed it, but anyways. And now I am on the page of news agent. So I can just quickly ask it, what can you do? So it says that I can retrieve personal user information, search for current news and information. So I'll just say, can you give me today's headlines in India? And then it will also show you the tool, and you can always inspect it. So if I go to events, like what was the reasoning, what was the logic, and then how did it came to conclusion, all those things, and traces how it traced to this point, everything you can, I mean, this is a very good tool to explore it. So it says that politics, science and technology, sports, other news. Okay, we can ask a specific thing also, like how is Delhi's AQI compared to last 3-4 days. And then it will give us, we can ask. So this whole thing is going to the search agent, that search tool that we just saw. So if you see that it decides, okay, which tool do I need to delegate this task to, and then it realizes that this is the tool which will give me the news data, so it goes to the search tool. Okay, so it's taking some time formatting the response, and then here it gives some comparisons. So that's about the tool thing. And then after that tool part, we just have two more things. And let's say if I ask, can you tell me about my personal info? So I'll ask it, and then it will decide. It just invoke the personal info agent. And since I did not provide any ID, so it says that please provide user ID. So personal info for the user with ID equal to ABC. Again, this is just a dummy one. You can see that it doesn't do anything with that argument. It just says if it is not present, it throws error. Otherwise, it will return this. So you can see that this is the response. So this is how you set up the tools, and this is how you stick everything in place. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much about the tools. And finally, for the memory. For the memory, I'll just quickly go through, like, as it suggests that you have one is short-term memory, other one is long-term memory. So the short-term memory is basically the state variable. So if you see here, if I open the inspector and go to the state, you can see it's empty currently, but I could actually, manipulate the state and throughout the session, the state persists. Once the session is over, the state goes up. So that's your short-term memory. So in a given session, you're always exposed to the state variable, which you have full control of how you want to. It's a dictionary basically. And yeah, I mean, setting it up and not more, I don't want to make this video very long. So setting this up and all those things are part of the state. And long-term memory is another important concept which can be explored completely. So you can use rack corpus or vertex AI memory bank or in memory, and it provides you things like how you want to add session to memory or search into the memory. And there are some functions. Again, I will highly recommend to go through the ADK docs to dig this further. But on a high level, this is long-term memory, so it doesn't vanish away once your session is done. It stays there for a very long time. I mean, as long as you want, basically, in your corpus. And you have two things. So one is in-memory service, which can be used for prototyping and seeing how things are going on. And then you have Vertex AI memory bank. So this is more for the production-ready application when you really want to, perform some kind of analytics or improve your accuracy. Then you would want to go to something like Vertex AI memory bank. But for prototyping and understanding, you can always go with in-memory search service. However, one important thing is that in-memory search is basically full text search only. It's completely text-based. On the other hand, Vertex AI memory bank will give you even semantic search. Those who don't know about semantic search, it's like contextual. Like I can maybe rotate the words or change the words, but if as long as the overall context or the meaning of that search is similar, it will still be able to fetch those details. Okay. So generating memories, retrieving memories, that's all the details. And yeah, that's the wrap. So I hope now you got a good understanding of this framework, how the agentic frameworks work, and Google ADK. I'm sure yeah, I mean, I am a big fan of this. I actually like overall design, and it's very easy to get started and start building. When you are going to deploy, you need runners. That is again, a concept on its own, so we can maybe discuss separately. But yeah, I hope you like this video. In case if you have any questions, feel free to ask in comments, and do let me know if you want to see a tutorial with Strands. That is also something that facilitates agentic development. So yeah, that's all. Feel free to ask any questions if you have, and until then, see you. Bye bye.